Hoi! Last week I talked to you guys about book covers and how they work and the ideas that are behind it, which if you haven't watched that, it'll be in the description and you can see it over there. And fortunately you guys really liked it and left lots of really interesting comments, and someone said that they actually thought the video was going to be a little bit more about the specifics of book covers, which I love and I'm happy to talk about. So today I'm going to give you a sort of starter's guide to book finishes. Now if you don't know what book finishes are, it's basically the effects that can be used on top of a cover when it is printed. And most of the information that I have on this comes from Tristan, who was in charge of production at Hockey Books when I was working there. I used to go into a lot of cover meetings and sit there and think, I don't know what any of these words mean. And now I know, and now I can tell you guys. I have a huge pile of examples, and so for every single thing I talk about, I have some examples too. Now we're gonna start off simple. Obviously, there is matte versus glossy. So matte looks like this, so there's not really a reflection on it. There's nothing special going on here. And then glossy is like The Fault in Our Stars. You can see the reflection, it's shiny, it feels a lot smoother as well. So that is matte versus gloss. And one of my favorites, which I think you guys will like as well, is super matte. Now it's the one that sort of feels a bit like rubber. The Penguin English Library editions have them, and you might recognize it from Fangirl. It feels really nice and sort of rubbery. And while I do love super matte, when you have a black or dark cover, it can get smudged and dirty very easily. This is another thing that publishers need to take into consideration when they're designing the cover and they're figuring out what the finishes are going to be. If you have a book that very easily gets dirty, then bookshops might not be able to sell them because people will take them off the shelf and think, oh, this looks dirty. And then there's one that you have probably seen but you might not have heard about, and it is uncoated. There's different varieties of these, and I think both of the ones I have here are uncoated, but this is when it feels like you kind of have the actual paper, and there's varieties of like how rough the paper is, so different uncoated books might look different. There's this one, which is Heap House by Edward Carey. Has a really nice luxurious feeling to it. So those are sort of the basics. There are different prices for all of them. Now I'm going to move on to some extras you can throw on top of that. So when you have a matte book, you can also add some spot UV, which stands for what UV usually stands for, which is ultraviolet. Apparently this is because, I quote, UV rays are used to set the high shine liquid in place. This is an example of a matte book where the text all has spot UV on it, so it means that if you sort of reflect it against the light, that really stands out, and that's the only shiny bit. And it works the same for We Were Liars, where only the letters are in spot UV and the rest is matte. This is kind of a special one. It is The Wake, and this has all these leaves in spot UV while the rest is either matte or uncoated. It might be uncoated. Now the one tricky thing about spot UV is that it has to fall directly over the bit that you want it to be on. So sometimes you can see books where the spot UV is a little bit off to the left or right. Now you've probably heard of embossing. Embossing is when there is a bit that is raised up so you can sort of feel it while running your hand over it. So it's the case for the bookshop book, and the words the bookshop book also has spot UV on them, but they're also raised. And while you can emboss, you can also deboss, which means that it's a lowered area, and I think Lorelei is a really great example of this, which has debossed scales which feel amazing. This also takes us into foil. Here you can see some foil. This is like multicolored foil, and obviously it's only applied in little bits, so it makes everything nice and shiny. Other good uses of foil: this copy of The Great Gatsby by F. Scott Fitzgerald, so shiny. And then also this one, Men Explain Things to Me by Rebecca Solnit, which has sort of like constellations and dots in foil. I think in the end my ultimate favorites are probably debossing, super matte, or matte with spot UV. Again, publishers will use this for different reasons, to attract certain audiences. It depends on how much money they have for the book, but I figured this would be an interesting sort of overview of cover finishes. Of course, let me know in the comments if I've missed out on any, and I hope you enjoyed this video. Doei!
Hello, me cool.